Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the I'll Try That podcast. This week I'm joined by Mash. That's one for all the barbers out there.
All of them. All 5 or 6.
And we're going to be talking about Curious Lager Brew. That is one that a mystery we're going to have to unravel.
Wonder if that killed the cat. So that's all.
Well, without further ado, I'll pass you on to Matthew for a hot topic.
Joe, thank you. Dartmoor Brewery. Familiar with them at all?
I'm not, actually. I know of Dartmoor. It's got a big prison, hasn't it?
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure, isn't that where the Hound of the Baskervilles was set?
That makes sense. Yeah.
The Dartmoor's, kind of big, moorish.
Is it near Devon?
I
want to say Devon area?
Yeah, so southwest England. Devon and Dartmoor side by side, pretty much.
Okay.
They have a brewery, Dartmoor Brewery.
Okay.
They do a couple of lovely beers. One by the name of Jail Ale.
I see what they did there.
Yeah, I was going to say you touched onto that as almost a callback to your mention of the jail. Basically, just a nice little report of good work in the community that they're doing. Dartmoor, as I said, working with the community and doing a bit of good. With a lot of these things we seem to have talked about in a few of our hot topics recently. Charitable initiatives, festivals, other work in the community, one-off special beers and that sort of thing. They all seem to have, unfortunately, been sort of put on the back burner a bit in the last couple of years, as has been the case with the charity initiative at Dartmoor. They have brought back their initiative of 100 free casks of beer for 100 good causes.
Wow.
So they basically, an auction is maybe not the best way to describe it, but basically they are taking all applications from, the idea is that they'll end up with 100, so more than 100 good causes, community causes, and charitable local organisations. They all get to basically make the case for, in terms of the good work that they do, and then Dartmoor will judge who's going to get one. And basically, they give away 100 free casks of JL Ale, which is quite a popular tipple with me and down in that neck of the woods. And then basically, the charity or the organisation can do whatever they want with it in terms of if they auction it off to raise funds for for the charity. I think presumably they can do things such as just serve it out to get people together for whatever event they're hosting and that sort of thing. So just a nice kind of relatively, I suppose, small scale, but fairly big scale, because 100 casks is no small amount of beer. Just to engage with the local community and also it's get people tasting a lovely local beer, basically.
I wonder if there's some level of vetting criteria that Dartmoor Brewing go through. Let's face it, if the Boy Scouts join up and say, right, we want one of your free casks, would they say, now who's going to be consuming this beverage? And
the same Boy Scout leader comes along 10 minutes later, but now in a huge false moustache, and say, "Oh, now I'm actually from a different organisation. Can I have another?"
It's actually two Boy Scouts on top of each other with a big trench coat.
Putting on the deepest voice as possible and occasionally breaking. Hi,
I like your jail beer.
Please, ma'am. I like that idea. Except it sounds like you and me wouldn't be able to get away with it if we tried.
No, I don't think so. I think we'd just start cracking up and give the game away.
Exactly.
So it sounds like a nice cause. They're obviously they're doing what they can in their world to raise money for good causes, and obviously they are a brewer of beer, giving that out. A case is a lot of pints in a case, a cask. Sorry, I should say.
It's interesting though that you say that, because we mentioned that I don't think it'll be Boy Scouts necessarily, but there's a little piece on this in Beer Today at the moment, and they mentioned all applications will be considered, but they're going to prioritise Dartmoor and Devon-based communities.
The local space.
Yeah, and those that promote community wellbeing, public safety, outdoor lifestyle, and responsible drinking. So go and have a look over there. There's also Ian Cobham, the managing director. There's a quote from him here. We are tremendously proud to be brewing great beers right here on Dartmoor. And this initiative gives us the chance to put a bit more back into the community and to support local charities which do such an amazing job, particularly given the challenge of the last 2 years. So recognising there, it's been tough on us all, and just doing a little bit to give back. So I quite like the idea. We're almost it's almost like we could possibly come up with a charter of beer lovers, ethics,
Yes,
and the spirit of beer lovers of giving a little bit back, which is quite nice.
Now, going back to the volume of this, how many pints do you think is in a cask?
I think I used to know this.
Why didn't you go ask yourself back then when you did know?
Just get on my my time phone. I think it's in the region of like 70, 80. I think it's about 80, isn't it?
It's 72.
Oh,
so you were really good. You were in that region.
I did. I think I didn't know it now, but I did somehow know that 72.
So I'll give you half a point for that one. Now I'll give you the full point and extra bonus points if you can tell me what the name of a 72 pint cask is called.
Oh no, I'm never going to get that. I think basically when you tell me the answer, I'll do that thing where I go, "Oh yeah, of course it is. I knew that." I haven't got a clue.
A 72 pinter is called a firkin.
I have, true to my word, I have heard of that because I'm sure back when I heard it the first time, I mentioned a merkin.
No, that's something else completely.
And they are completely unrelated, despite the fact that they rhyme. There's definitely a bit of a joke to be made in there about firkin, and it's not far off another word, is it? So
leave that up to the listener's desires.
If you get one of these free casks, I suppose you could describe it as firkin good news. I forgot we're not doing the X-rated version of the podcast.
No, I like that one. That's brilliant. Right, let's glide on over to Curious Lager Brew.
Let's talk about our guest of honour. Yeah.
So I hadn't come across Curious Brewery before. And I was intrigued, obviously, to go and look a bit further, look a bit more. And what struck me, I think, was when I first looked at the bottles. Because on the label, it's all black, and they've got these like kind of gold writing for for the lager brew.
Yeah,
they've got a big question mark in the middle as well. Curious written down one side, all stacked on its type. It's all very modern looking, doesn't it? Looks very new. Doesn't look like it's been around for a long time.
Indeed, you can't help but feel they are tempting you into ask questions about it, aren't they? Yeah. They are relatively new, though. I think is it 2011 that they were set up.
Actually, what struck me, and we can back up to this. So what I know about Curious Brewery, I was looking a little bit more on this. Nowhere on the label, on the packaging, or on the secondary box where the bottles were kept, because I bought this in like a 12-pack. There was this symbol that was on the top of the bottle, on the lid.
Oh yeah.
And that struck a chord with me because I was like, I think I recognise what that symbol is.
Oh, okay. And it almost looks, I don't know if I've got it the right way up or the wrong way up now, but it's either a stained glass window or like a shield.
It's a stained glass window, and it's the symbol of Chapel Down Winery in Ashford, Kent.
Ah, okay.
Which you may or may not have heard of.
I have heard of.
Yeah.
And that makes a bit of sense because the one thing I know about Curious Brew, or particularly the Curious Lager, is a wine-related aspect.
What's that?
Is that it contains, maybe check me on this, champagne yeast.
Ah, oui.
Oui, oui. Très bien. It's only if it comes from the Champagne yeast region of yeast development.
Of Yeastville. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think it's the most expensive yeast, or sought after yeast that you can get your hands on. It's considered the best, the most premium strain of yeast you can get is this champagne yeast.
Yeah, and I'd say that there is a bit of talking labels and I don't know the style of it. It looks like it's pitching itself as a high-end beer. This, dark bottles, black label, subtle gold lettering typeface, and that's before we can get onto taste profile.
Well, that's it, and I was, and it's quite in keeping with the Chapel Down. They do champagnes, they do a whole coast of things, including wines. I'm actually really a big fan of their. They've got their red wine, which is delicious. But yeah, all their bottle labels are all black, and they've got like this one simple red line across it. And it's all very kind of minimalistic, I suppose, looking quite premium with this thing. However, as you said before, I think they did. Chapel Down created this Curious Brewery in 2019. What also happened at the end of 2019 / early 2020?
Oh yeah, bad timing. There was that big thing, where everyone got. Yeah, well, the coronavirus pandemic, right? Or you're doing end of... it did start in 2019. That's
it is, exactly. Yeah, you're spot on. And so probably not the best time to launch a multi-million pound brewery and visitor centre, in Ashford, because basically no one could go to it because everything got locked down and, so there was actually some really curious news here in that Chapel Down decided to sell Curious Brewery and shut it down, like basically within 2 years of it coming. So it took 18 months to construct this Curious Brewery state-of-the-art facility and visitor centre, cost £1.7 million. And it had exactly. So looking at some of the photos of the inside, really plush, like definitely worth a visit.
Very modern, yeah.
But yeah, they sold it. They said that apparently that that they're selling it off. And can you maybe take a guess? You won't be able to name who it actually is, but what kind of person picked this brewery up now? Who is the new proprietors / owners of Curious Brewery?
Oh, blimey, that could be anyone.
Well, let's maybe, okay, I'll be a bit, give you a bit of a hand with it.
From the world, so is it from the world of beer?
No.
It's from the world of showbiz.
No, it's not a celebrity, but I like where your head went at that one.
How about chef?
No, that's, again, I would class that as maybe showbiz if they're rich enough to be able to buy a brewery.
What sort of politician?
No.
This is going to be the worst game of 20 questions ever.
Maybe
someone royal?
No, again, you're still going. All of those are themes on celebrity. I would say.
Oh, okay.
Famous. We're not talking famous. We're talking like
some kind
who would have the money
someone
to buy?
Someone like Richard Branston Pickle.
Yes, like Richard Branston Pickle. No, it's a company called Risk Capital.
Oh, okay.
And they're a venture capitalist fund. So not your.
They did board games, I think. Didn't they? Oh, sorry, that was cheap shot. Sorry, that's bad.
So anyway, so they went. Chapel Down were looking to sell. They picked it up.
I'm sorry to go, but I really like Risk as a name. Risk Capital.
Yeah.
Because also, the name advice for anyone investing in stocks, your capital may be at risk.
That's it,
that
exactly.
Makes it sound like they're really clever. So your money may be with Risk Capital. Yeah. That's genius. I like that.
It's almost like they've got given you the terms and conditions just by saying hello.
Much, say the name and go, do you agree? Good. Well done. Thank you.
So they've had this brewery now, and I've just noticed it kind of propping up, Curious Brewery. We picked this up at Majestic Wines, wholesalers, but yeah, it seems to be like they're now in control of Curious Brewery.
Somewhere I've got their glasses, because I think this must be the 2019 state-of-the-art facility. They must have been doing quite well, because I'm sure we used to serve them in the Hop House in Bristol.
Nice.
That's why I've got a couple of these really nice flutes. I'm sorry, they're not flutes, they're like tulip glasses, but like the 2/3, not 2/3 pint, maybe 2/3 pints. And I've got one, and I've just criminally am not drinking Curious out of the Curious glass. What a genius! But shall we? This delightful light-coloured, goldeny, and golden like lager golden, isn't it? Because that's what this is. You've got the lager as well, haven't you?
I have their lager brew, as they refer to it as.
Fruitier, I would say, than your average lager. I think they pitch themselves as such, but a bit more going on, I'd say.
Now they're saying that it's going to be crisp and fruity. Now you get and you've got the fruity. Have you got that crispness?
It is crisp. It doesn't taste like crisps. Yeah, I'd
Not like
crisp.
fruity crisps.
I would say it is crisp. It's because it's that. And it's actually, I was going to say, it was just going to come out of my mouth without even thinking about it, but it's just that's like a fizzy lager. But actually, it's not that fizzy. I've had way fizzier lagers than this.
Yeah, it's very palatable. And, as I said, one of their kind of like USPs, unique selling points, is this use of champagne yeast, as we talked about before. And actually where they use the champagne yeast is in the second fill.
Right.
So when they re-ferment with champagne yeast and a dosage, in parentheses, of rare Nelson Sauvin hops as well.
Nelson Sauvin, okay. Because I did think it's also, is it Cascade and Galaxy, I think? I keep trying to improve myself and my palate and maybe I need to get myself on the Cicerone course, but I keep telling myself that I can taste particular hops these days.
Yeah.
And I think I can taste Cascade hops here.
You can. You can also taste Galaxy hops. You're absolutely spot on. There you go.
Okay. Yeah. I'm quite pleased about that. I'm going to get some drastically wrong. Any day now, but I don't know. I'm curious to know then also, particularly for lagers, if Cascade is quite a common one. But I think did we maybe say in a recent episode Cascade is a relatively new hop, a new strain?
Relatively new strain, yeah. It's like it's off from the Simcoe hops. I think it's like a strain of that.
Yeah,
I think if I remember correctly,
we talked about it recently. I think.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's really nice because it is the sort of. For me, I always think of a lager as almost, if you're not having a type of ale or a pale ale or anything like that, I sort of always think of most lagers as being quite sessionable, or I'd rather have treated them as thus. But that's me saying it's it's not fizzy, and I'm getting a bit gassy with it. But I don't know. This one feels like I would have it in smaller quantities because I ought to savour it a little bit more. That could be the champagne yeast thing sitting in the back of my mind rather than the taste necessarily. But this is almost sitting to one side quietly and having a curious, I'd say.
I'm really intrigued by this because I've had a couple. I sampled a couple before we did this recording, as in like throughout the week, and really enjoyed the first couple of sips of it. And I was intrigued to find out a bit more about Matt Anderson, who's the head brewer at Curious, and what his background is. So, he's worked before in the brewing industry, as you can imagine. He worked at Chapel Down and Curious Brewery, for the tenure since they started up since like 2018. But he actually came from AB InBev. And was a brewing manager there for a long time. So he's worked around. So he's obviously understood and knows the brewing industry very well. Worked from one of the best in the brewing business, quite literally, in AB InBev, and is now using his expertise into the Chapel Down. I shouldn't say Chapel Down anymore, but the Curious Brewery. Efforts. But I mean, looking at the photos, I'm on their Instagram right now of Curious Brewery. This building looks very impressive.
It is it is cutting edge, isn't it? It's tomorrow's
very pointy.
brewery today.
That's it. So I'm definitely. I mean, given I'm down the road more or less from Tenterden, which is where this brewery is, I'm going to go down and see it. This will be, a really interesting experience.
Well, you'll be able to try also because I understand they are now doing a session IPA for 4.4%.
Right. Okay.
And there's a porter, 5.2, and I don't know. I feel like this is a forbidden word on this podcast, but there is something called Curious Apple, which I believe is a cider.
That makes sense.
We kind of cross our fingers and go, not cider. We spoke about cider a little bit with Quantock recently, I think, because that's obviously popular in that neck of the woods. But
that's it.
They do it. Well, that's got to be, hasn't it? I think Curious Apple
is that apple also with champagne yeast, you reckon?
Yeah. Well, I guess that's a good question actually, and I was just going to say yes, but I would have to check now because I assume that's the treating it as their signature. That's their stamp, right? We use the champagne yeast.
Well, it's funny you should say that actually because I did just go and click onto learn a little bit more about this apple like cider that they have, and they use Kentish Rubens and Bramley apples, which usually makes sense, local produce apples. But they actually use Bacchus wine yeast, so they are using a different kind of like quite premium styled wine grape related yeast. So similar to like the champagne yeast that we're getting in this lager beer, but you're getting that in this apple one. It's quite interesting.
Alcoholic lager beer.
Yeah, and so I'm intrigued. Yeah, they've only got 4 beers right now, as much as I can see. I think, as you say, they've got an IPA, an apple, porter, this lager brew that we're seeing, and I've seen that on their Instagram they've recently launched a pilsner as well. So it seems like they are growing, slowly starting to grow their staple beers. But yeah, with an impressive building, a new brewery that's had a lot of spend behind it to get where it is, a new team by the looks of things built around it with industry professionals, from experiences like AB and Bev. I can see good things coming from Chapel Down, and to have, a stockist like Majestic Wines all over the UK, like you can probably find this Curious Brewery or Curious Brew like up and down the country. So definitely worth having a pop in and have have a see.
It's a good distribution. Because you don't see them everywhere. I think Majestics are fairly good. I suppose it makes sense as well, because Majestic you do think of for wine first. So actually that they do a beer cultivated out of wine. I want to say byproducts, but I suppose that is right, rather than they're not a byproduct. Something incidental about it anyway. But
no, you're absolutely spot on. And I think if you needed more reasoning to go and pick this up outside of what we've just been talking about, they also won the gold medal at the World Beer Awards for this specific beer. So it's got some quality behind it.
Gold medal. There you go. Yeah. Does the talking for you, doesn't it?
Instagram and Twitter, they've got about 9K on each, which makes sense for a company of their age, who are probably obviously putting some spend behind their marketing and getting things going. But yeah, I'd like to see a little bit more on their Instagram game, I would say.
Can locals and beer enthusiasts, I guess, make up most of those 9,000?
Yes, must be. But yeah, if they're up and down, and maybe from the back of this podcast, they'll be open up to a lot more people. They'll be open to trying.
Going to grow their following just by a power of several.
And that's all we have time for this week's episode of the I'll Try That podcast. And so from me, Joe, Rich,
Barber,
and Simo,
goodbye. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram,
Twitter,
I'll try that podcast.com.
and watch us on YouTube.
Goodbye now.